A series of tragic events. America goes through a very tumultuous time. Um, your grandparents probably remember a lot of this stuff, and it affected the nation, affected the people of this country quite a bit because one thing after another happens to America. And people are starting to figure it out as information comes out. But what we need to know is just the basic details. So I'm going to go through them very quickly. The first one, President Kennedy was shot. He was assassinated in 1963. Um, the person that they accuse initially is Lee Harvey Oswald. He's a Soviet sympathizer. But before they can really get any deeper, he's shot and killed when the police were moving him to another jail by an angry Dallas businessman, Jack Ruby, which they don't mention here. Lyndon Johnson takes over as president of the United States, and it's quite a scene. What happens? I mean, when you lose a president in a violent way like that. I mean, with Roosevelt, he just died in office. He was very old and sick, and so people were very upset about that. But when a president is assassinated, there's a sense of vulnerability that Americans have, and it was a very serious event. Um, then we have a lot of these things going on. Church has been bombed. Ku Klux Klan, we talked about them earlier in the book. Group, they would go around bombing black churches. They would try to intimidate people to not vote or vote a certain way. And in this particular one, in 1964, I'm sorry, before that, during this Birmingham, Alabama bombing, four young girls who just wanted to go to choir practice died during this bombing. And if you ever saw the movie Mississippi Burning, I believe this is what they're referring to, is in 1964, civil rights workers went down south to register black voters, and they were murdered. And the FBI had to go down there and try to figure out what happened. In 1965, black communities were just getting fed up with what was going on. They started to riot, and it just spiraled out of control. Well, one person who was trying to help was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was, we haven't really talked about him too much, but he was a civil rights leader, one of the more prominent ones. And he wanted peaceful resolutions, demonstrations. Um, we're going to march. We're going to bring people's attentions to what's going on here, and try to unify people peacefully. They would get beat in the streets. And it hurts, but good people are looking like, why are they beating on these people? They're just marching. And you get to see who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. And this is the genius of Martin Luther King Jr. So he's doing all these things, trying to get civil rights brought to the black community. But then on April 4th, 1968, he's assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. And yeah, it's just another, you have Kennedy and then Dr. King, just devastating communities because of people that are trying to help the American people like Kennedy and Dr. King, and people are just shooting them. This is not how America is supposed to operate here. Well, it didn't end there. John F. Kennedy's brother, Robert Kennedy, was also shot and killed when he was running for president in 1968. So it's just one thing after another. You got, 1963, John F. Kennedy. 1968, you get both Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy. And now the people are just, this is just crazy. So we got three assassinations: John F. Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, all in the 60s. Well, we get out of the 60s, and the most popular president of all time gets entangled in scandal and has to resign. And so what had happened was his vice president was forced to resign because of scandal, and so they got somebody who was unelected into the vice presidency, and then they got Nixon to resign, and so Gerald Ford picks up the mantle of presidency, and he was never elected as president or vice president. This has never happened in our history. before or since. And so this is the with all these things that are going on, our confidence in the government just continues to plummet. I'm talking about the people, people like Gerald Ford tried to get people's attention back, but at this point, with all of these things going on, you can understand why people just don't trust the government. Ever since then, it still goes on to this day.